Created by the late artist Patrick Nagel, and it's now been definitively linked to a real-life muse through meticulous research by Nagel historian Mark Walker. She has been revealed as the former model Marcy Hunt, a name previously unknown to Duran Duran fans and the broader public. She's now a vineyard owner in California. I've been speaking to Mark and Marcy. Mark started by describing this iconic album cover for the benefit of people not familiar with it.
The Rio album cover is a picture of a woman who is wearing a high fashion gown with a large sweeping fin on one side. She's got these long, colorful earrings on, and she looks like she's at Carnival in Rio. She's got this huge smile, and her smile is so amazing that you can actually see her smile in her eyes. It's just very colorful, very pop.
Now, it's not a photograph, and it's not a very detailed drawn image. It wasn't a given, surely, that this was based on a real person.
Yeah, until you start looking at Patrick's work, and you find out pretty quickly that he worked both with models in the studio, and he also found inspiration from tear sheets from all sorts of magazines. The thing that I've liked about Nagel's work is as abstracted from a person as it is. I've always seen the person inside it. It's also just thrilling. I'm sorry to be talking to Marcy right now because this is the first time I've heard her on the phone, and it's kind of exciting.
Well, we better bring her in quickly. Marcy, what's it like to be the actual Rio?
I can tell you, Paul, that it was, and Mark, that it was an incredible surprise. It's just amazing. It's been a lot of fun. I feel so blessed to be connected with the group, with Duran Duran, and the people, of course, who have made the discovery. It's just incredible.
You're an actual Duran Duran fan, aren't you?
I am. They're an incredible group. The fact that they are still making beautiful music, and their music is so complex. Everything that they pulled together as musicians may have sounded simple and easy and breezy with Rio, but it really wasn't. And of course, all the girls were, in love with the band naturally at that time.
You remember the actual photo that this album cover image was based on? In it, you had a pair of sun specs on, didn't you?
Yes, I do remember the photo. I had many photos, of course, during that time, during the 70s and the 80s when I was living in Paris. I never really thought that the illustration on that well-known cover was a real person. It never occurred to me that, oh, that's me.
That's quite surprising, really, given that you were very familiar with it.
Well, I was familiar with it. What I didn't realize was that Patrick Nagel had taken it from a photo.
So tell me, Mark, about the search for that photo.
What happened was when Duran Duran released their documentary, Something You Should Know, was the first time we'd actually seen that full canvas. And then Barry, Patrick Nagel's studio assistant at the time, who was on my Instagram, was like, oh, Mark, that painting and the other one we did for Duran Duran were both from found images. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, he confirmed that it was out there somewhere. And that's what really motivated me to go look for that image.
And so you were surprised, Mark, sorry to butt in, but you were surprised as well that it was an image, because everybody asked me this, and I had no idea it was related.
Yeah, it's one of those things where the reason I do this in part is because I like reverse engineering a Patrick Nagel painting. So I started hunting in all these different magazines and was Googling and not having much luck. And I bought those, frankly, as fast as I could afford to. A lot of those sellers sell them for like $100 these days. And so I kept on buying, and I was just flipping through this latest Vogue Paris that I'd gotten, and I was flipping through, and I flipped to the page with Marcy, and it's a 3-page editorial. This is on the left, and I'm looking at the images on the right, and I just feel something in my chest, like this looks too familiar. The hat and the sunglasses did completely throw me off. But I kept on looking at her eyes, and there's a way that Marcy's eyes smile and brighten up that's just so unique to her. And then I looked at her smile, and that's a 1 in a billion smile, Marcy. Your smile is amazing.
Well, thank you, Mark. And thanks for all your research as well, really.
And either or both of you, if there's a 20-year-old listening who's thinking, what on earth are they talking about? Can you just express why that image in a way, sums up an early 80s era. It's quite central to a time, isn't it?
I do the same thing everyone else does. We've got Spotify these days. We've got our, we hardly even notice album cover art. But back then, album covers meant everything. And I'll be quiet because I want to hear from Mercy myself.
Well, absolutely. And I think that with the video and with the band, they have so much energy, so much charisma. Everything at that time was glamorous and adventurous. And somehow I think that this photo expresses that.
Mark Walker, who I think was in New York, and Marcy Hunt in California, solving the apparent riddle of the Duran Duran album cover. Back then, album covers were everything, says Mark. Can you relate to that, either of you?
It's an amazing image, though, isn't it? That album cover.
I've got it up on my phone here, which is no good to anyone listening, but it will jog your memories, I'm sure.
I was just thinking it was a very bold story for radio, but it worked so well just because of the infectious enthusiasm. I love that phrase, a 1 in a billion smile. And it's just a beautiful...
She seemed genuinely pleased with it as well, didn't she, with the description? And she seemed thrilled by the idea that she had been the inspiration. I was sceptical about that story because it seems a slightly generic image to me when you glance at it, that it was definitely a real person, but it was apparently confirmed by the artist's assistant. We seem to have the final word on it.
What I find really incredible is how generous she's been and happy about all of this, because I could see in modern times somebody reacting very badly to their image being used for music purposes. But I think it has to do perhaps that nostalgia for Duran Duran, 1980s, that period of